What up, squids? Welcome back to another episode. You know, I was going to talk about something, like I had a topic picked out for this particular video, but seeing that FedEx truck makes me want to go on a FedEx rant, as it were. So this is going to be a another random rant video. The first one I did was recent. It was my hardware store rant video. If you haven't watched that, watch it. It's pretty funny, I think. But anyway, so this is going to be a little bit longer of a video. I try to keep videos short, but this one's not going to be able to be short. I'm going to talk about my time working at FedEx Ground. And to let you know, I think a lot of people don't know this, and I certainly didn't know this when I started with FedEx Ground, was that FedEx in general is the umbrella company. But underneath FedEx, you have FedEx Express, FedEx Ground, used to have FedEx Home Delivery, FedEx Freight, FedEx Office. There are so many different like subcategories to FedEx. And years ago, I started at FedEx Ground in 2015. November 2015 to July of 2020 is how long I worked there. When I started, you had FedEx Ground and FedEx Home Delivery that were two separate companies, but they were in the same warehouse. But a lot of people don't know there are multiple FedExes, and I certainly didn't know. Now, the reason I mention that is because FedEx Express employees, again, this is all 2015 knowledge, so unless something's changed, you guys can let me know. But back then, FedEx Express employees were like the actual delivery drivers. They would get out and take packages to commercial and residential customers. They got hourly pay, I believe, and they also have benefits, retirement, stuff like that. I did not work for them. I worked for FedEx Ground. FedEx Ground and FedEx Home Delivery were basically the same entity. Those employees were all contracted employees. So what that means is FedEx Ground and FedEx Home Delivery would employ contractors, individuals that would buy and own and maintain and run and manage and deliver routes, okay? Particular routes around town, whatever the area was, or it could even be out of town, right, in a different county. That happened too. And those contractors would hire employees, which is what I was. So we wore the FedEx Ground uniform. We would drive a truck that the contractor owned or was leasing that had the FedEx Ground stickers on it. And we looked like full-fledged FedEx employees, when in fact we just got a weekly paycheck. It was basically salary. It didn't matter if you worked 4 days, 5 days. You got the same pay every day, whether you worked 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, didn't matter. And when you got a raise, your weekly amount would go up, like $10, $20, whatever. So we didn't get any benefits, no retirement, no health insurance, nothing like that. No PTO days. We just got a paycheck every week, and it was the same pay. Now, when I started, I worked with that particular area's smallest contractor, meaning he had the smallest number of routes. At that time, contractors were allowed to have either FedEx Ground routes or FedEx Home Delivery routes. So you could have two contractors that had the same area, but one route was set up for home delivery, one route was set up for ground. I know it's kind of getting in the weeds here, but I want to educate you on something you may not be aware of. So when I started, I had a pretty good size area. I don't know the radius of what it was, but it covered a large area, enough to keep me busy from 9 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And my stop count, meaning the number of individual stops I had per day, it was anywhere from like average 60, mid 60s up low 70s to like maybe in the 90s. Now during peak season, meaning like October through January, you know, that could go over 100, but it was less than 100 every day. I didn't realize how good I had it though, but let me talk real quick about the job. So you would come in, you'd have to sort your truck, put your, deliveries in order. The guy that trained me, the contractor, trained me really well. Again, I didn't realize really how good of a guy he was in that aspect until later. But I learned I would come in, I would sort my packages on each shelf per area on my route, and I would write everything down on a clipboard, on a piece of paper. So as I would deliver it, I would check it off throughout the day, because the little scanner you had, if the people that worked in the warehouse employees, if they didn't scan every package, it wouldn't show up on your scanner. It's because some guys would use their scanner to run their routes with, right? But not every package is scanned, so then you get done at the end of the day, you'd have leftover boxes, and you may have to go back to the very beginning of your route. So anyway, I would write everything down, which helped out tremendously and made me a very efficient, good employee. And I thought at the time the stop count was kind of high, right? Again, later I didn't realize how wrong I was about that. But anyway, so there would be times I would have, 70, 80, 90 stops. And it was a good job. The first couple of years, you're out on your own. You don't have to answer to anybody. I had a lot of back road deliveries. I had a lot of main road deliveries with commercial businesses on both sides. But you don't have anybody micromanaging you, right? I enjoyed that. I also enjoyed being able to pick up, because FedEx Ground's weight limit I think was 175. So I would get dressers, beds, basketball goals, trampolines, those inflatable jacuzzis in a box. Heavy stuff. Bedroom furniture that sometimes if I had an apartment complex, I may have to walk that up, 3, 4, 5, 6 flights of steps to second or third level of an apartment complex. There were times where I would get burnt out and it would suck, right? But I got a workout every day is what I'm getting at. So not only was I making, at the time, the best money I'd ever made, I was also getting a workout every day, so that was cool. And that went on for several years, and I enjoyed it. Well, then the contractor that I worked for he retired, because he'd been doing this. He wasn't an older guy, but he'd been doing it for so long, he was able to retire. He made so much money. And he sold to the largest contractor. So I worked for the smallest contractor in the building and the largest contractor in the building. When I say smallest and largest, I mean he owned the minimal amount of routes, and then the guy I worked for later owned the most routes. And boy, you talk about a night and day difference of employers. It was night and day. My stop count went up double, sometimes a little more than double, sometimes a little less, depending. But now the area I delivered shrunk, because the reason one of the reasons the guy sold, not only because he was retiring, but because they also started making the contractors purchase home delivery and ground routes in the same area. They couldn't own just ground or just home delivery. They had to own both for a particular area. He didn't want to do that. And so when he sold to the largest contractor, he already had all the home delivery routes, so now he's absorbed all the ground routes, so he's got everything. Anyway, my stop count went up tremendously. I mean, in a small neighborhood, whereas before I may have 15 stops, then it went up to 30 or 40 stops in a neighborhood, but it may just be a little single sleeve, right? Like a mailer or something like that, which could have been sent through USPS, but it was sent through FedEx or Amazon, because they started contracting with Amazon, and I would get a lot of just real single thin shit, but it would make my stop count go up in a neighborhood tremendously, so it was ridiculous. And what pissed me off was my stop count went up tremendously, but my pay did not go up to match the amount of work I was doing. And make a long story short, I just got burnt out, and I was able to get a job. Let me back up a little bit. I got burnt out. Now, I've never quit a job in my entire life. I've always worked out a notice, because that's what my father taught me to do. Instilled that in me, and that's good if you can, because you can use them as a reference later. It's always good to end on good terms with an employer. You can use them as a reference, but you could also maybe go back to them if times got tough or whatever, you need a job, you go back to somebody you worked for previously. If you burn that bridge, you can't use them as a reference, and you can't go back, so you screw yourself. So anyway, I've never quit a job before in my life, but one day I came in, the loaders had been doing a really shit job for the last several months. And I came in and my stop count again was just, the truck, it looked like they just slung everything in the truck. Nothing was in order, even attempted to be put on the shelf in order by the loaders. And the stop count was so high, I was fed up. I was literally fed up. Like I said, that job was great the first couple of years, but at the end of it, I've been there for 5 years. Well, a couple months shy of 5 years. And I was just burnt out. And if you've been in the industry for ground, you know that they have a massive, massive turnover rate. Those contractors don't give a shit about you. They pay you as little as they can. They give you as many stops as they can. They don't give you benefits. You don't get retirement. And if you quit, they don't give a shit because they got somebody lined up the very next day to take your spot. They just want a warm body in that position to get to at least attempt to get out and deliver packages. So anyway, I came in that day, I was overwhelmed, I was pissed. I just walked out, texted my contractor, was like, dude, fuck this, I'm not doing this anymore, you don't give a shit, I get no help anymore, it's ridiculous. And you know, what I respected, looking back, about the first contractor I worked for, of course he didn't really have a choice because he had limited employees and one manager, but he would come in and run a route if he had to, you know? Now, granted, yeah, if he didn't, it wouldn't get delivered and he would lose money and probably lose a contract with FedEx. But still, it didn't bother him to come in and run a route for days, weeks, months at a time if he had to, until he found a decent employee. And what he taught me was really well. He was actually a pretty good employer. Not the nicest guy, you know, didn't really care about his employees the most, but he was, for what he was, working for FedEx, he was a good employee and a good contractor, and he was a good teacher in the industry. He knew a lot about it. So I was like, fuck it, I fucked off, I left, texted the dude, and I was without a job for about a month till I found another job, and I was actually making more money and blah, blah, blah. But FedEx Ground, I would not encourage you to go there and make a career out of it. You know, if you want to go there for a little while and work and get some experience in the delivery industry, that's fine. And maybe move on to like FedEx Express or UPS. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend being a delivery driver for FedEx Ground as a career. And if there are any people watching this, trust me, you can do better, right? You use your experience with FedEx Ground to use that as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. Don't make it a career. Anyway, that's enough ranting about FedEx Ground. If you stuck around this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe down below, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace!